Sasori and Deidara first appear in episode 2 of Naruto Shippuden, and by kidnapping Gaara, they immediately set the high-stakes tone of the series. Their partnership isn't seamless though, and it is apparent to the viewer from their first conversation that while Sasori and Deidara get along on a basic level, there is some tension between the two of them. Namely, Sasori and Deidara are linked to their shared love of art, but their conceptions as to what constitutes true art couldn't be more different. Deidara believes that art is something that is supposed to be fleeting, an explosion that enters and exits with a flash, while Sasori believes that true art is everlasting. This begs the question as to how they got such different values. They both work for the same criminal organization, yet Sasori values permanence and Deidara values impermanence. In this video, I discuss Sasori and Deidara's differing philosophies and how it impacts their partnership dynamic. To understand how Sasori and Deidara's differing philosophies emerged, it is first imperative to analyze their backgrounds. Focusing on Sasori first, Sasori's parents were killed by Kakashi's dad, Sakumo Hatake, when Sasori was a child. Because of this, Sasori was effectively raised by his grandmother Chiyo, who taught him how to create puppets. Using these newfound skills, Sasori created 2 puppets modeled after his parents in an attempt to ease the loneliness and pain he felt by their passing. However, these puppets were unable to act as complete substitutes for his parents, and they couldn't give Sasori the love he needed. As a result, Sasori eventually cast these puppets aside and started creating more powerful puppets that were meant for battle instead of emotional support. In Japanese, the word for puppet is ningyo, with the first character meaning person and the second character meaning shape, form, or style. As a result, the word itself means human shape, which denotes that while a puppet looks like a person, it is missing some fundamental quality that prevents it from being fully human, be it a soul or conscience. Sasori likely realized this as he grew older and subsequently got disillusioned with his parent-shaped puppets, leading him to leave them behind. Eventually, during the Third Shinobi World War, Sasori started making battle puppets out of the bodies of actual people, and it was then that he fell down a dark path. After his experiments were discovered, Sasori fled the Sand Village, became a rogue ninja, and then converted his entire body into that of a puppet, with the only human component remaining being his core. Sasori was then eventually recruited into the Akatsuki by Konan, and in the Akatsuki, he was initially partnered with Orochimaru. Going back to the point earlier on the word puppet itself, it is possible that Sasori started making puppets out of real bodies because he was trying to find the human quality that his parent puppets lacked. In the anime, Sasori started creating puppets out of human bodies when his best friend died, and Sasori's first human puppet was made out of his good friend's dead body. However, that is not canon, so Sasori's true motivation for starting his experiments is unknown, and it could be because he was searching for the element his wooden puppets lacked. A related reason could be that Sasori hates seeing people decay. As someone who values art and perfection, he could dislike leaving his opponents' bodies to rot when he could immortalize them by adding them to his collection. The reason could be as simple as the fact that Sasori has sadistic tendencies, but I would like to think that there is more to it than just that. Relating all of this to Sasori's philosophy, Sasori's background and lonely childhood is key to understanding him as a character. Because his parents were taken from him at a young age, Sasori values permanence above all else. Sasori places importance on things that can disappear and can be fixed again when broken, which over time has lowered his regard for other human beings to an almost sociopathic level. Since he hates things that are fleeting like human life, Sasori tries to disassociate himself from other humans, to the point of trying to become a puppet himself. People are impermanent since they all die eventually, so Sasori tries to reject his humanity. As a part of this, Sasori also rejects his emotions, and he even said that he wouldn't care if his own grandmother who raised him died. Emotions themselves are fleeting, so Sasori tried to make himself as cold-blooded as possible. Sasori's distaste for impermanence also translates to his craft. Sasori defines art as something that is everlasting. To Sasori, art must stand the test of time, and he does not include passing trends or things of ephemeral beauty in his definition of art. As someone who grew up in an unstable situation, he puts stable and permanent art on a pedestal. As a result, Sasori does not admire Deidara's jutsu in the way that Deidara admires his. Deidara's jutsu is destructive and can level a whole city in minutes, which doesn't sit well with Sasori, who values things that last forever. While Sasori certainly recognizes Deidara's strength and is able to entrust Deidara with valuable tasks, he never seems particularly enthused when Deidara is blowing things up. Interestingly, Sasori is also extremely impatient. Despite being someone who believes that true art exists forever and that there is perfection in permanence, Sasori has a really hard time waiting. If good things truly last forever, then there should be no rush to complete things, yet Sasori gets agitated when he has to wait. According to M.J. Ryan, author of The Power of Patience, How This Old-Fashioned Virtue Can Improve Your Life, impatience is part of the fight in your fight or flight response. Impatience is the inability to stay calm in the face of disappointment, suffering, or distress, so Sasori's inability to wait stems from the belief that he has limited time, which is odd considering the fact that he turned himself into a puppet and values preservation. As a result, Sasori's impatience probably stems from the fact that he knows deep down that nothing is permanent, no matter how well it is structured or built. The final aspect of Sasori's personality worth mentioning is that he was a loyal member of the Akatsuki. His loyalty was probably due to the fact that the Akatsuki offered him a place where he belongs, and after suffering from so much loneliness as a kid and displacement as an adult, that meant a lot to him even though he was reluctant to join at first. Briefly discussing Sasori's death scene, although Sasori tried to turn himself into a completely unfeeling sociopath, his final moments show that he was not completely successful. During his final battle, he rejects everything Chiyo says, yet in the end he dies being embraced by his parent puppets one last time. As Sasori is attacked, he has a flashback to him being hugged by his parent puppets as a child, and after Sasori dies, Chiyo says that Sasori could have avoided the puppets, but he didn't. Sasori also looks extremely distraught when Chiyo talks about her reanimating jutsu, and the prospect of how, if he hadn't gone down a dark path, Chiyo may have revived his parents into puppets makes him pause, even if he tries to downplay it. No matter how much he tried to deny it, Sasori still craved love and affection until the very end. Moving on to Deidara, Deidara did not grow up in the same tragic situation that Sasori did. Deidara grew up in Iwagakure, where he trained under Onoki as a member of the Explosion Corps. Deidara possesses the Explosion Kekigenkai, and in order to improve his explosive ability, he stole one of his village's forbidden techniques that allowed him to pump chakra into substances. It was after stealing this technique that Deidara gained the mouths on his hands and chest and was able to pump chakra into his clay. Deidara was then able to develop what to him was peak art, since he could mold clay into explosive figures. To Deidara, art is an explosion, and he had finally found his perfect medium. It was around this time that the Akatsuki became interested in Deidara, and Kisame, Sasori, and Itachi were sent to recruit him. Deidara initially refused their offer, and when Itachi offered to duel him, Deidara cockily accepted the offer. Deidara thought that it was a given that he would win, so when he experienced a crushing defeat, Deidara was horrified. The fight was over before it even began, because Deidara fell for Itachi's genjutsu. Shell-shocked from the speed of his defeat, Deidara looked at Itachi and said, "Beautiful. This is art," before he realized that he just admired someone else's jutsu and snapped out of it. This loss was a traumatic incident for Deidara. Deidara was used to being the best, but Itachi changed that. Itachi caused Deidara's notions of superiority to come crashing down within the span of a few minutes, and Deidara never moved on past this crushing defeat. To Deidara, Itachi was someone he simultaneously revered yet loathed, since Itachi's power was awe-inspiring, yet it also reminded Deidara of his shortcomings. After this fight, Deidara spent a lot of time training to counter genjutsu, and developing ways to break high-level genjutsu became an obsession of his. As a result of this training, Deidara's left eye became resistant to genjutsu, which was immensely useful in his fight with Sasuke. Deidara also developed his C4 Karuda technique after this fight, and he planned on using the jutsu in a rematch battle with Itachi. Deidara and Itachi's fight also inadvertently led Deidara to his death, since the prospect of losing to a Sharingan again made Deidara slightly unhinged in his fight with Sasuke. Deidara viewed his battle with Sasuke as a chance to redeem himself, so when Sasuke refused to look scared or acknowledge Deidara's jutsu, Deidara became furious. Deidara was so determined to beat the Sharingan that he was willing to blow himself up if it meant taking down an Uchiha. He was determined to prove that his jutsu was superior, even at the cost of his own life. The fight between Deidara and Sasuke was one of my favorite fights in all of Naruto, and Deidara fought extremely well, even though Sasuke had a double natural advantage from his lightning affinity and Sharingan. Going now to Deidara's philosophy, Deidara and Sasori are opposites in that Deidara's life developed in accordance with his belief that art is an explosion, whereas Sasori's art developed because of what happened to him in his life. By this, I mean that Deidara valued impermanence from a young age, which led him to betray his village in pursuit of the ultimate explosion jutsu, while Sasori only started valuing permanence after his parents died, and it is unclear if Sasori would have went down the same path had his parents stayed alive. Deidara built his life around his deep-seated belief that art is something that can only be enjoyed for a few moments, and honestly, that is pretty powerful. While Deidara's love for explosions was probably born out of the fact that he possesses the explosion release Kekkei and was a pupil of Onaki's, his conceptions of art didn't emerge from anything traumatic. Deidara is just a fanatical artist who likes things that go boom, and that's what makes him such an enjoyable character to watch. To Deidara, art is something that has to be enjoyed in the moment, and it can't be translated to physical items like Sasori's puppets. Deidara lives life for the adrenaline rush he gets when blowing something up, and his philosophy towards life stems from his belief that the most enjoyable things are fleeting. Because of this, Deidara does not try to escape death in the way that Sasori does. Deidara has a jutsu that turns himself into a bomb, which he wouldn't have spent the time developing if he feared death. When Sasori first met him, Sasori claims that Deidara seems like the type of person to die young, and Toby once said that Deidara will likely blow himself up one day. They were both right. Deidara went out with a bang when he was only 19. Deidara is a type of person to prefer dying in a blaze of glory while young, rather than grow old past his prime. Because his conception of art isn't the result of a traumatic past, Deidara is also more respectful to Sasori and his notion that art lasts forever than Sasori is to him. Although they argued about the definition of art all the time, and Deidara would never change his mind that art is an explosion, Deidara also clearly respected Sasori. He used the Japanese honorific Danna when referring to Sasori, which roughly translates to "my man Sasori." Deidara also once said that Sasori was stronger than him, but it is unclear if he actually meant that, or if he was trying to get Kakashi to go help Sakura and Chiyo so he could deal with Naruto alone. Deidara definitely realized the true extent of his respect for Sasori when Sasori died and he got his new Akatsuki partner, though. Deidara clearly hated being partnered with Toby. Deidara was playful with Sasori, but he was downright hostile with Toby. Toby's antics clearly annoyed him, and while Deidara and Toby's dynamic was great for comedic effect, it clearly took a toll on Deidara mentally. When Sasori and Deidara got reanimated, it was also apparent then that Deidara still cared for Sasori. After talking with Kankuro, Sasori felt content to die once more, because he knew that his art would be passed down to future generations. However, Deidara got immensely distressed when he heard Sasori start to decay, and he started screaming that art is an explosion in an attempt to stop Sasori's reanimation jutsu from becoming undone. Overall, Sasori and Deidara's philosophies are polar opposites. While Deidara and Sasori get along on a basic level, their core ideologies clashed. Sasori did everything in his power to ensure that he and his art lived forever, while Deidara created a super powerful, suicidal jutsu that was meant to allow his art and his life to go out with a dazzling flash. Yet, despite their widely differing viewpoints, Deidara seemed to value Sasori, and they operated really well as a team. Neither of Deidara's nor Sasori's viewpoints are necessarily right or wrong. They were just born out of their individual circumstances. So that's it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and please consider supporting me on Ko-fi. A $2 donation would really help me upgrade my equipment so I can make higher quality content in the future. The link is in the description below. Also, thank you guys so much for 800 subscribers. I can't believe that many people actually enjoy my videos. I'm so grateful for all of your support.